Why does that shrub have kneecaps? The question silenced the laughter around the campfire like a sudden airlock breach. For a moment, the elite assassins of the Galactic Guild squinted through their infrared lenses, trying to make sense of what rookie Tyvax had just blurted. He was pointing toward the edge of the jungle clearing where, nestled between two massive blue glowing vines, was indeed a bush, oddly shaped, strangely symmetrical, and very definitely breathing. The next second, the shrub stood up, shuffled a few feet to the left like it had stage fright, then crouched again, now behind a tree with leaves on only one side. Hushed laughter exploded across the group. A chorus of mockery followed. One assassin threw a half-eaten ration bar at it. Another pulled up his holocam and started filming. "Look at this guy!" boomed Creel, the leader of this overconfident kill squad. "Did they dig him up from the Academy's janitorial division?" The bush, wearing what now looked like a ghillie suit designed by someone who had never seen a real jungle, gave a stiff nod as if confirming his own humiliation. He held his blaster backward. One leaf fell off his helmet. "We're gonna die laughing tonight," muttered Jex, the explosive specialist, who had already turned the footage into a looping GIF and was uploading it to the Assassin Guild's private comedy thread, tagged #CamouflageFail. They didn't know who he was. Not really. The assassin team had landed on Hemlock 9 that morning, tasked with eliminating a rogue black market tech dealer and his militia. The plan was simple, the team was elite, and the only unexpected development was this lone, camouflaged fool who had apparently been assigned to observe and report. Probably an internal promotion error. Maybe a practical joke from command. No threat. Just entertainment. By the second hour, they named him Twig. Because that's what snapped under his foot every time he tried to sneak. By the third hour, they'd stopped inviting him to tactical briefings. By the fourth, they'd forgotten he was even on the mission. But that night, they remembered him. First came the power drop. The base's artificial lighting blinked out in unison with the warning chirp from the perimeter bots. Emergency sensors kicked in too late. Creel's voice, usually deafening, called out once, clipped by a static slice. "Everyone back in FO." A single shot cut him off. Silence. The kind of silence that's too loud, too sharp, the kind that peels the skin off your confidence. Jex crept toward Creel's tent with his plasma torch ready. Inside, there was no sign of life, just a trail of scorched footprints that ended mid-step, like someone had been lifted clean off the floor. One long dragged mark led outside, into the thick underbrush. Then they found the helmet. It sat on a stump, polished clean, with a note jammed in the visor. Handwritten. Actual ink. Not digital. "Nice camouflage. Try it sometime." No one laughed after that. The jungle around them, once annoying in its constant humming and pulsing alien noises, now felt sentient. Alive. Watching. The breeze that rustled the leaves? Maybe breath. The flicker of light in the trees? Maybe a lens. A scope. A heartbeat away from death. The remaining 6 assassins regrouped in the central bunker. What had begun as a cocky operation was now a horror movie in slow motion. One of them, Nil, pulled up their orbital scan, no aircraft visible. No life signs beyond their own. And yet, the blood on the stump was warm. Recent. Surgical. "It was one shot," murmured Caro, the youngest of them, shaking his head as if doing the math. "Just one. No sound. No warning. No energy signature." "Sniper?" Jex offered. "Couldn't be. Not from that angle. Maybe a drone? No buzzing. No hover trail. Stealth tech? If it's stealth that good, we're already dead." That night, nobody slept. Not even the ones who pretended to. Each hour brought a new loss. At 0100, 2 guards went missing without a struggle. Their comms were still transmitting, quietly broadcasting the last sound they'd heard, a laugh. Low. Cold. Male. By 0300, every light source was dead except for the fires they'd built by hand. By 0500, a package arrived at the center of camp, gift wrapped in vines. Inside were 6 shell casings, each etched with a name. Only 5 of them were still alive to read them. That's when Carol remembered the old name, buried deep in the guild's early training logs. A name whispered like myth, like legend, like threat. Rex. No last name. No origin file. Just the code name once used in classified guild projects, pre-expulsion. He'd vanished after an incident on Hemlock 9 years ago. Supposed to be dead. But dead men don't leave handwritten notes. Dead men don't laugh. Dead men don't snipe with bullets no one can trace. Caro stared at the jungle's edge. He didn't see the sniper. But he felt him. Somewhere out there, the man they called Twig had traded the mockery for silence. And silence, in the hands of someone like Rex, was deadly. They had laughed at his camouflage. Now they would beg to be unseen. By the time the second night fell, the jungle was quiet in a way that felt wrong. Hemlock 9 was never truly still, its vines usually shifted like muscles under skin, and its trees whispered to each other with the clicks of bioluminescent beetles and deep pulses from underground fungal networks. But now, nothing made a sound. Not even the wind. As if the forest itself had stepped back in anticipation. The assassins sat in the dark, sweating through their armor, eyes wide and twitching, listening for a footstep that never came. Their confidence, once sharp and blaring, had decayed into a cold, tight fear that crawled beneath the skin. Caro clutched his datapad like a lifeline, sifting through archives he was technically too low-ranking to access. It wasn't courage that pushed him, not really, it was a hunger for understanding. They were dying one by one and nobody even knew what they were fighting. There were no energy readings, no projectiles left behind, no visual confirmation of the enemy. Just silence and perfectly executed kills. The others didn't talk much anymore. They stayed in their own corners, each trapped in the echo chamber of their growing dread. Caro, though, needed answers. He bypassed 3 layers of encryption before his screen finally opened a restricted file. It wasn't a video. It was an old mission transcript, corrupted and patched over, but readable. He skimmed it, heart pounding. Hemlock 9. 5 years ago. A guild operation gone wrong. The mission: eliminate a rogue weapons dealer who'd betrayed the council. The operative sent in was a sniper, codename Rex. No first name. No biometric data. No photo. Just a note scrawled at the top by a redacted commander. Only deploy Rex if you don't mind losing everyone else. The mission had failed. The guild lost contact with Rex mid-up. No body ever recovered. Presumed dead, buried under the jungle's vicious terrain. Case closed. But someone had reclassified the file 2 months ago. Changed the status from presumed dead to unknown status. That someone was Creel, the same man now missing half his skull and a good chunk of his chest cavity. Caro's hands trembled slightly as he closed the file. That was the moment the pattern clicked into place. Rex hadn't died. Rex had been betrayed. Left behind. By who, the files didn't say. But it wasn't hard to guess. Creel had served here before. So had Jex. So had Nil. All 3 had transfer logs that matched the same year as the failed Hemlock op. What were the odds? He looked around the bunker. Jex sat sharpening a blade that didn't need sharpening, his eyes vacant. Nil was asleep with a plasma pistol duct taped to her hand. Tyvax was gone, or rather, what was left of him was arranged artfully in a spiral outside the door that morning, with vines braided through his armor like a death wreath. That left only 4 of them now. Caro cleared his throat. It came out louder than he meant. The others jolted. I think I know who it is, he said. Jex looked up, eyes narrowing. It's Rex. From the old sniper division. I found the file. He was here. They said he died? Nil scoffed, not bothering to open her eyes. Everyone says he died. That's the point. That's what made this story work. But Creel knew, Caro continued, voice rising slightly. He changed Rex's status just weeks ago. I think he knew we'd find him here. Or worse, he knew we'd be hunted. That's nonsense, Jex said, though he sounded like he was trying to convince himself more than argue. Rex was a ghost. Nobody ever even saw him in person. Just stories. A myth. Myths don't leave sniper rounds in your friend's neck, Caro almost said, but he held back. He knew arguing wouldn't help. They needed a plan. They needed to survive. It was Vexa who broke the tension. They hadn't seen her enter. She stepped out of the shadows behind the generator with a slow, confident gait. She looked like no one else on the team. Her armor was mismatched, layered with scavenged pieces and marked with sigils from outlaw clans. Her face was half covered by a breathing mask that pulsed faint green, and her left arm was clearly prosthetic, though it moved with more grace than a real limb. No one knew where Vexa came from. She wasn't on the mission manifest. She wasn't on any manifest. They'd assumed she was Guild Special Support, inserted for tech backup. But now, the way she moved, the way even Jex stood when she entered, it told a different story. You're right, she said, looking directly at Caro. It's Rex. The silence deepened. She took off the mask. Her face was marked by thin, pale scars that traced down from her cheek to her neck like old claw wounds. Her eyes were tired but sharp. I found him 3 years ago, she said. What was left of him. Hemlock 9 tried to kill him, same as the guild. But he survived. And I put him back together. Jex's mouth opened, then closed. You helped him? Helped? She echoed, almost amused. He was the best soldier the guild ever had. And they threw him away. What did you think would happen? He's killing us. No, Vexa said. He's delivering justice. You just happened to be in the blast radius. She pulled a small hollow projector from her belt and activated it. A flickering image appeared, grainy, black and white, but clear enough. It showed Creel, Jex, and Nil standing over a badly injured man. His face was bloody, half buried in the dirt. Creel held a knife. The audio crackled with static, but the words were unmistakable. No loose ends. Orders from the top. Then the image ended. You knew? Caro whispered, turning to Jex and Nil. You left him to die? Jex didn't answer. Nil opened her eyes slowly, then looked away. Vexa stepped forward. He's not here to slaughter everyone. He's after those who made the call. You three. Everyone else? You were just stupid enough to laugh. Caro's mind reeled. The last 2 days made a terrifying kind of sense now. The precision. The cold restraint. Rex could have killed them all in one night if he wanted to. But he didn't. He was methodical. Surgical. This wasn't revenge, it was retribution. Outside, the jungle made a sound. A low, slow whine like a blade being drawn across bone. Vexa raised her head, listening. He's coming, she said. Not a warning. A promise. The rain came just after dusk, sharp and acidic, burning through the canopy with a hiss that sounded like whispered secrets. It sizzled against armor and metal, forcing the remaining assassins into the narrow cave mouth they'd fortified earlier. Jex stood near the entrance, rifle drawn, though he didn't bother aiming anymore. The jungle didn't give targets, it just took. Caro sat farther back, near the makeshift table where the hollow projections still flickered occasionally, replaying the betrayal Vexa had revealed. Each time it looped, it cut a little deeper. He had trained with these people. Looked up to some of them. Now he wasn't sure if he was huddled with soldiers or monsters. No one spoke much. Vexa sat cross-legged against the wall, her expression unreadable, her fingers slowly disassembling a small drone like it was a puzzle she already knew the answer to. Nil hadn't said a word since seeing the footage, but her gun remained clenched in her hand. Only Jex tried to maintain the illusion of order, barking short commands, double-checking the perimeter, chewing stimgum like it made a difference. They all jumped when a long metallic clang echoed through the forest. Not a shot. Not an explosion. Just a heavy, deliberate bang, like someone slamming a metal door shut. Once. Twice. 3 times. He's playing with us, Jex muttered. No, said Vexa without looking up. He's hurting you. The clanging stopped. And then came the message. Static buzzed through their comms, followed by a voice, low, crisp, and calm. 3 targets. Remaining time, 4 hours. Your exits are marked. Good luck. Caro's blood went cold. The voice didn't need to identify itself. The only person who could break into their encrypted channels, in this terrain, with this clarity, was Rex. Jex cursed, slamming his fist against the cave wall. You're telling me he's giving us a time limit? A goddamn game show now? Vexa shrugged, still working the drone apart. It's not a game. It's discipline. He was always like this. Mission structure. Rules of engagement. Even now, he's following his own code. Then maybe he'll respond to an offer, Nil said, speaking for the first time. Her voice was hoarse. I call in the guild. Full sweep. They pull him out. Give him a proper trial. No one's coming, Vexa said. Nil's eyes narrowed. You don't know that. I do. Because the guild already marked this planet as a black zone. No retrieval, no reinforcements. They didn't just abandon him back then, they abandoned you now. Silence fell again, heavier than before. The 3 assassins who had survived weren't allies anymore. They were suspects. Targets. Potential victims. Caro sat frozen with the realization that he was the only one not on Rex's kill list, and even that felt like a coin toss. He wasn't sure whether to be relieved or horrified. All he knew was he didn't want to be in that cave when the countdown hit 0. 2 hours passed. The rain turned into a mist. The jungle pulsed with strange blue light, the kind that made shadows move wrong. And then, without warning, one of the outer mines detonated. The blast shook the walls, sent dust falling like snow from the ceiling. A second mine went off a minute later. Then a third, closer this time. Deliberate. Measured. A countdown of its own. He's coming, Jex said, pacing in circles now. We don't just sit here and wait. We move. Split up. Confuse him. He'll pick you off one by one, Vexa said, still calm. That's what he wants. And staying here's not a death sentence? Vexa looked at Caro. He's not after you. Caro stiffened. How do you know that? Because I asked him. Jex turned to her, livid. You talked to him? You've been talking to him? I've been negotiating, she said. Trying to keep this body count lower than what the guild deserves. You should have told us. You would have tried to kill him. I still might. Vexa gave him a look that was entirely empty. Not threatening. Just factual. You won't get close. That was when the lights inside the cave shut off. Not the generator, just the lights. Power still hummed faintly, but the bulbs themselves had been fried. One by one. Silently. Jex raised his rifle. Eyes up. He's screwing with the system. Then came the hum. Not electricity. Not machinery. Something older. A tone deep and rhythmic, vibrating through the rock, growing louder, sharper, until it wasn't just heard, it was felt. What the hell is that? Nil said, covering her ears. Sound weapon, Vexa said. He's disorienting us. Why aren't you affected? Jex barked. I've had practice. Jex didn't wait. He bolted from the cave, disappearing into the jungle with no plan and no cover. Nil hesitated for a moment, then followed, screaming something unintelligible. Caro stayed behind, paralyzed. Vexa watched them vanish, then reached for her helmet. They won't make it, she said. Caro looked at her. And what about me? You're not his target, she repeated. But you have to choose now. Stay here and hide, or help me stop this before more people die. I thought that's what he was doing. Vexa smiled faintly. He's cleaning up the mess. But even cleaners need someone to carry the mop. Caro stood, unsure, adrenaline burning through his chest. What do you need me to do? Help me lure him in. Make him believe we've turned on each other. Then you'll run. He'll follow. I'll intercept. That's your plan? It's not a plan, she said. It's a gamble. But Rex respects structure. Give him a scenario that fits his logic, and he'll play it out. Outside, the jungle howled with new sounds, metal scraping, branches snapping, a plasma bolt going off like thunder. Then a scream. Jex. Cut short. Caro clenched his fists. I'll do it. Vexa nodded once. They moved fast. She reactivated the generator, dimmed the comms, planted a decoy beacon. Caro ran into the open as bait, heart slamming with each step, convinced he'd be shot before he made it 20 meters. He didn't make it 20. A figure dropped from the canopy like a shadow made solid. Caro froze. The man didn't point a gun. Didn't speak. Just tilted his head slowly, scanning him. Rex. The armor was different now, grown over with jungle bark and tech interwoven with vines. His helmet glowed faint red. He didn't look human anymore. He looked like Hemlock 9 itself had raised him. I'm not your enemy, Caro said, hands up. Rex didn't answer. Then came a click behind him. Vexa. Gun drawn. The jungle held its breath. The click echoed in Caro's ears like thunder, louder than the jungle, louder than the thrum of adrenaline racing through his body. He didn't dare turn around. He could feel the tension ripple between Vexa and Rex like a storm cell about to ignite. Rex didn't move, but Caro felt the shift in the air, as if the man's focus had hardened, narrowed to a single point. The jungle, so alive and unruly before, seemed to freeze around them. Not a leaf rustled. Not a single insect dared hum. Vexa's voice broke the silence, low and steady, but with something brittle buried beneath. He's not a threat, she said, nodding toward Caro. The boy's clean. Your war is with the rest of them. Not him. Rex remained still. It was impossible to see his eyes behind the mask, but something in the set of his shoulders relaxed, barely. Caro felt the cold grip on his lungs ease just a fraction. Then, without warning, Rex turned and disappeared into the underbrush like a ghost passing through the veil. 1 second there, the next just empty air and swaying leaves. Vexa lowered her weapon and exhaled. Caro spun on her. That was the plan? Get me within shooting distance? I knew you'd freeze, she said with a flicker of dry humor, and I knew he'd recognize it wasn't an act. He was testing you. I could have died. We're all going to die, Vexa said. The difference is how useful we are before we do. They returned to the cave. Or what was left of it. The perimeter sensors had been torn out with surgical precision, each one dismantled and arranged in a neat line outside the entrance. Jex's rifle was propped up against the wall like an offering, his helmet placed directly beneath it, faceplate shattered. No sign of the body. Nil's sidearm sat in the dirt with a message burned into the grip, not your call. There was blood, but not much. Too clean. Too deliberate. He's pushing them, Vexa said, walking slowly around the cave, inspecting the message like it was art. He could have ended them instantly. But he wants them to feel it. Wants them to understand what it's like to be cornered, abandoned, sacrificed. Caro watched her carefully. You're not here just to help him. You're here to guide him. Make sure he doesn't lose control. He already did, Vexa said, but he found something else in its place. Order. Strategy. You don't survive what he did without reshaping your mind completely. The man who went into the jungle 5 years ago died. What came out was something new. Is that why the guild left him? Caro asked. Because they were afraid of what they made? No, she said. They left him because he reminded them of their failures. And the guild doesn't apologize. It deletes. They moved again, deeper into the jungle this time, following a path only Vexa seemed to understand. Caro asked once how she knew the way, and she said Rex had given her a map, carved into the bark of a living tree, encrypted in the shifting patterns of its leaves. Not digital. Organic. Alive. That was how he survived out here. He hadn't adapted to Hemlock 9. He had merged with it. They reached a clearing an hour before dawn. A half-ruined temple overgrown with moss and glowing fungi stood in the center, ancient and silent. This is where he trained, Vexa said. After he woke up. He turned this place into a fortress the guild couldn't find. They tried once. Sent a probe team. That's why the East Ridge is still on fire. Caro sat near the edge of the ruin, watching the sky lighten with false morning. The air smelled like damp stone and ozone. Vexa paced, checking the motion trap she'd laid, but her movements were slower now, more thoughtful. Caro couldn't tell if she was planning or waiting. The line between the two had blurred since all of this started. Then a ping sounded on her wristband. Low frequency. A signal only she and Rex used. One left, she read aloud. He's moving in. Who? Caro asked. Nil? She nodded. The others are dead. She's the last link in the chain. He wants her to face it. To acknowledge it. And if she doesn't? Then she dies alone, Vexa said. They waited. An hour passed. The sun never truly rose on Hemlock 9, but the jungle grew lighter in that strange, blue glow way. The birds screamed once and then went silent. A sure sign something was coming. When Nil finally emerged into the clearing, she was ragged and bleeding, limping slightly, but her eyes burned with defiance. You think this redeems him? She shouted at the shadows. You think this is justice? Rex didn't answer. Instead, a hologram activated near the temple steps. It showed footage from 5 years ago again, this time from a new angle. It was Nil who made the call. Her voice, clear and cold, he's compromised. Leave him. If the jungle doesn't kill him, it means we were wrong. Either way, we don't go back. Caro watched Nil flinch, her armor seeming to grow heavier with each word. She looked around the clearing, half expecting Rex to step out and finish it. But instead, Vexa stepped forward. He wants to know if you'd make the same call now, she said. Nil didn't respond. Say it, Vexa urged. Nil looked at the hollow, then at the sky, then at her own bloodied hands. She opened her mouth once, closed it, then finally said, I made the call I thought was right. Then you die with that choice, Vexa replied softly. And with that, the hologram faded. Nil turned to run, but she hadn't taken 3 steps before a dart struck her shoulder. She staggered, fell, and lay still. Tranquilizer, Vexa said. Not death. Yet. Rex stepped from the treeline, silent and steady. He didn't speak, didn't gloat. He simply stood over Nil and watched her breathe. What happens now? Caro asked. That depends, Vexa said. If she confesses truly, we send her to the guild. Let them deal with what they buried. If she doesn't, Rex has another plan. What's the other plan? He erases her. Not just her body. Her name. Her records. She becomes a blank file, forgotten. That's worse than death for someone like her. Caro shivered. And Rex? Rex has one more thing to do before he's finished. And what's that? He has to make sure the right people hear the truth. All of it. Not just the guild. The whole galaxy. Justice, Vexa said, is loudest when it's undeniable. The sky above Hemlock 9 churned with clouds that didn't belong there. They had an artificial sheen, humming faintly with static as they spiraled inward, casting long shadows over the jungle. The birds had vanished again. The air tasted of copper. The first warning of arrival came not from sensors or alarms, but from the way the jungle itself recoiled, leaves curling, vines retreating into themselves, trees tilting ever so slightly as if bowing to a higher power. Then came the low rumble of dropships breaking atmosphere, their engines screaming like dying stars as they tore through the clouds, flanked by silent escort drones. Guild reinforcements had arrived. From their position near the ruins, Caro, Vexa, and Rex watched the sky split open. Caro instinctively crouched lower into the underbrush. Vexa didn't move. Rex simply stood calm, steady, his eyes scanning the formation as if confirming a memory. They've sent a covert retrieval unit, Vexa said after a moment. No insignia, no beacons, no broadcast. They're not here to arrest him. They're here to erase him. Caro's chest tightened. He looked up at Rex, who had yet to react, his breathing slow and deliberate. He's known since last night, Vexa added, answering the question before it could be asked. He knew once Nil was taken alive, they wouldn't let it go public. They'd come to clean up. Caro wanted to ask what the plan was, but the words died in his throat. Plans didn't apply anymore. Not in the way they once had. Rex wasn't fighting a war. He was closing a chapter. One that the guild thought they'd buried deep beneath files and flames. But here it was, rising from the dirt in a suit of bark and metal, staring down the machines they'd sent to make it disappear. The dropships landed just outside the eastern ridge. Silent doors opened and 12 operatives emerged, black armor, mirrored visors, weapons drawn but lowered. Not standard troops. Shadow Division. The kind of team deployed only when deniability was more important than success. They moved without sound, securing a perimeter, sweeping the jungle with scanners that were useless in Hemlock's hybrid terrain. Rex moved first. Not with a weapon. With a broadcast. All across the guild's private network, across their encrypted feeds, a message played, footage from the betrayal, from the ruins, from Nil's confession. It wasn't flashy. No edits, no commentary. Just truth. Raw and simple. And impossible to unsee. The operatives froze as the footage looped. Some stared, some turned their heads as if denying it would make it disappear. Their comms crackled to life with panicked orders. Scramble it. Wipe the source. Isolate the node. But it was too late. The message had already replicated, jumping between satellites, bouncing through pirate comms, echoing into civilian networks. The guild had tried to kill a myth. Instead, they'd handed it a microphone. That was the moment the jungle attacked. Not Rex. Not Vexa. The jungle itself. Vines whipped from the underbrush, pre-programmed traps triggering bursts of corrosive spores and electromagnetic pulses. Trees fell in precise patterns, collapsing around the operatives and cutting off escape. Rex moved through the chaos like a shadow in the rain, his sniper rifle silent, his shots precise, aimed not to kill but to disable. A wrist here, a leg there, a weapon reduced to fragments in midair. He wasn't here to slaughter them. He was here to dismantle their myth of control. One by one, the operatives fell back, retreating toward the dropships. But the ships wouldn't respond. Their engines had gone cold. Their command link severed. A new signal pulsed from the ruins, Vexa's doing. She had rerouted the jungle's neural network, turning Hemlock 9 into a massive signal jammer. No communication. No backup. No extraction. Caro stood near the edge of the clearing, watching the end unfold with a mix of awe and fear. He had never seen anything like it. He had trained for war. But this wasn't war. This was revelation. Rex didn't just defeat the guild's best, he showed the galaxy what they really were. Liars. Betrayers. Cowards hiding behind policy. Vexa approached Caro, her face calm despite the chaos. It's done, she said. The message is out. The guild will deny it. Discredit it. But the truth never fully dies. Someone will believe it. Enough someones, and the guild will fracture. Rex won't need to kill them all. He just needed to crack the wall. Caro looked back at the dropships. Smoke drifted from one of them now, not from fire but from exposed wiring sparking in the open air. A single operative limped out of the trees, dropped his weapon, and sat down in the mud, head bowed. Defeated but alive. Rex didn't shoot him. When it was over, the jungle began to calm. The vines uncoiled. The light softened. The trees straightened, and for the first time in days, the wind returned, gentle and cool, as though the planet itself was exhaling. Rex stood at the center of the clearing, surrounded by silence. Vexa walked to him, and they exchanged a brief nod. No words. Just understanding. Then she turned to Caro. He's leaving, she said. Not hiding. Not running. Just moving on. This place won't hold him anymore. He did what he came to do. And you? I go with him. Someone has to remind him when enough is enough. Caro didn't argue. He understood now. Rex wasn't just a man. He was a lesson the guild had refused to learn. And Vexa was the one who made sure it wouldn't be forgotten again. As they prepared to go, Rex turned to Caro. The helmet slid back for the first time, revealing a face marked by scars, age, and something deeper. Calm. No hatred. No pride. Just peace. Thank you, Rex said. For listening when others laughed. Caro nodded, unsure of what to say. Rex turned, stepped into the jungle, and vanished. Days later, Guild headquarters denied all transmissions from Hemlock 9. Official reports claimed a communications malfunction and a tragic loss of personnel due to environmental hazards. But the footage spread anyway. Syndicated broadcasts ran it uncensored. Underground networks translated it into dozens of languages. Across the galaxy, people watched a man survive betrayal and fight back, not with rage, but with truth. Caro stayed behind. He wasn't a soldier anymore. He was something else. A witness. Maybe a teacher, eventually. The ruins remained, half swallowed by the jungle, pulsing faintly with energy. And sometimes, just before dawn, he'd hear a laugh, not mocking, but knowing, carried on the wind like a memory refusing to fade. The myth of the night sniper didn't die. It evolved. Because myths, when rooted in truth, never really disappear. They grow. And somewhere, out there in the deep black, the man once laughed at for his camouflage walked again through the shadows, waiting for the next lie that needed silencing.